Hello, this is my presentation on my final report of Geographic Information System, um, my junior year major report for my major environmental management and protection. My name is Joseph Cook, and this is the fire risk assessment and report of Golden Apple Ranch. This is going to be a deep dive into the family history, severity, and probability of my family's ranch in Camino, California. Golden Apple Ranch. The issue of wildfires in California has grown exponentially in the past years, and it has hit close to home. I have a personal relationship with wildfires, as I have had to evacuate 3 times from my home residences in Vacaville and Cordelia, California. These fires were from the Atlas Fire in 2017 and the LNU Complex Hennessy Fire in 2020. Additionally, I have family and friends who were impacted by the Park Fire and the Camp Fire in Butte County, California. While these terrifying times occurred, I knew that most of the problems were just from us. The way we tackle and attack the sources, effects, and reactions of these fires is crucial. This is why I want to do my best to safeguard my family's apple ranch. The ranch is a peaceful yet lively place of warmth and love for my family. This home is in Camino, El Dorado County, California. I lived on the ranch briefly after the Atlas Fire to seek shelter, and I have spent various summers up there for both fun and work. The ranch is survived and looked after by my Papa Ray, William Cordova, as well as my late Grammy, Kathy Deneen. The ranch has endured many nearby fires, such as the recent King and Caldor fires, while not ever being at severe risk of being burned recently. I have personally put sweat, blood, and tears into helping the ranch, with many of my other family members doing the same. I plan to commit to doing so until something happens to me or the property itself. My roots run deep in places affected greatly by these fires, so I want to help if possible. This map in the left-hand corner shows the location of Golden Apple Ranch on Cable and Copperton roads. The describing questions that I have for this project and report. To achieve this goal, I want to propose a few questions. What does the current data show and how the ranch has survived past fires? How severe would a fire be in the regional area? Where is a fire probable to happen within the distance of the ranch in the future? I essentially want to understand a broad view of the regional circumstances that have affected the fire history, severity, and probability. Is my family's apple ranch in Camino, California, in danger of severe wildfires in the future? This is what I want to clarify with this report. Finding geographical data and analyzing it is key to my findings. With systems like QGIS, ArcGIS Pro Online, and additional sources, we can closely find the physical data to articulate our response to these questions. I will map this data and explain its correlation to how I plan to help the ranch with it. This is the picture on the right is the frontal view of Golden Apple Ranch along Cable Road. Background of California fires. Within the state of California, a vast amount of wildfires has occurred in the past years. Droughts, increasing temperatures, and bad forest management have aggravated these wildfires. The frequency, intensity, and severity of these fires have especially increased compared to what we have seen in the past. The California Matters website shows that as of 2022, half of the state's 20 largest fires had occurred over the previous 5 years. Of these, 7 occurred were within 2020 and 2021. This is my first source, California Matters, to track California wildfires. They provide multiple maps that do so as well. This is a severe problem, not just for individuals in high fire severity zones, but the whole of California. Some impacts of these fires are financial devastation, burned land and structures, minimized CAL FIRE ability, along with possible injuries and possible death. We see many drivers of this increase in destruction. Specifically, for some of the more recent devastating fires, climate change and faulty forest management have a vast amount of dry fuels in the many parts of the forests. These fuels burn in the 1, 10, and 100-hour range when lit and result in increased amounts of brush piles when not. Dry and dense kindling can be sparked at any moment. That's exactly what happens with the leading cause of fires, electrical disruptions, lightning, and human caused. Investigations further into fires like the Camp Fire, which in November 2018 was caused by electrical transmission line failures by Pacific Gas and Electric. The LNU fire complex, also known as the Hennessy Fire, which I was affected by, was caused by lightning. Lastly, the recent July 2024 Park Fire in Butte County, California, was caused by a man pushing a burned car into a gully. These results can cause an enormous blaze in an instant within the matchbox of this state and destroy thousands of acres along the way. The state of California is on an increase in total acres burned by wildfires, as shown to the right in Figure 1. This is CAL FIRE and Watch Duty's graph of the total acres burned by wildfires. You can see from 2015 to right around 2021, there was a very big increase, and those were the top 20 total biggest fires in California were in 2020, 2021, as shown by these peaks here. Methods. Past. Analyzing fire history. To understand what fire impacts might occur in the present and future, we must first look at the specific fire history of this area in El Dorado County. Taking secondary data from CAL FIRE and El Dorado County fire districts, I found the California Fire History Perimeters. This is my second source. This El Dorado County government website has the severity, recovery for specific fires, and online mapping tools, as well as this perimeter. I translated the perimeter into polygons and placed them into QGIS. Locating the ranch, I found that the only fire that occurred on the property since 1878 was the Hartwick Fire. This 177.6 acre fire occurred over 100 years ago on July 24th, 1920. The cause was miscellaneous, or understood as possibly or probably not known at the time of the fire investigation. This is shown in the map to the right, Figure 3, using fire perimeter data and Google Earth imaging to evaluate it. With this being the only fire on the property for 104 years, we see a definite fire interval drought that could be potentially alarming. We will look further into these on how the lack of fires on the property affects present and future outcomes in our results. Here's my first map I created. This red box around the green parcel is the Hartwick Fire in 1920, and this is the parcel perimeter for the property. With this data, we understand a need to look deeply into what our specific property type is. Through mapping, take a look at the California fire history by acreage map below, or to the right, figure 2. This shows a zonal view of the bigger area around the ranch and the major fire distances from the property. It also transcribes that those significant and large fires are in dark red, and those will be over 1,000 acres. These are mainly shown in the King and the Caldor fires. The King fire, northeast of the property by about 2.5 miles, was caused by arson and burned 97,000 acres in September 2014. My third source is from the Cal Fire investigation into the King Fire. The Caldor Fire, southeast of the property by about 4.5 miles, burned 221,000 acres in August 2021. My fourth source is the Cal Fire investigation into the Caldor Fire. Depending on the climate conditions and elevation area, we can see a range of fire intervals of these forest types. Less frequent but more intense fires are more common in today's state. Within areas like Camino, California, the dry forests increase this risk with factors like drought and beetle infestation. My fifth source is a government organization looking into forest management in Camino. The majority of the forest types in these plots were mixed conifer and firs, which also comprise most of the ranch forest types. Historical fire frequency shows that these drier mix conifer forests have a 5 to 30 year interval, with wetter fir types burning more than every 30 to 50 years. My sixth source is explaining these intervals, and it was a interview article on PBS. Our comparing results with will further examine what this means for the ranch and the surrounding area with little fire interval history and high severity. This second map that I created, figure 4, shows this green area surrounding the ranch that is the general area that does not have past history of giant fires. You can see the edges of the Chili, the King, and the Caldor surrounding the ranch, and this green parcel, this green area is without those. This is the California Cal Fire ArcGIS data showing these perimeter data. Present, analyzing fire severity. Cal Fire's Fire and Resource Assessment Program, also known as FRAP, assesses the amount and extent of California's forests and rangelands, analyzes their conditions, and identifies alternative management and policy guidelines. My seventh source is the FRAP website on calfire.org and .gov. This website and FRAP in general produces plenty of research, mapping, and reports on California's forests and fire data. We will focus on present and future analysis of FRAP technology to understand our findings. The Office of the State Fire Marshal, using FRAP, creates fire hazard severity zones, FHSZ, or this along with the State Responsibility Area, SRA, to make FHSZ-SRA maps. The map below, or to the right, figure 5, shows a majority of El Dorado County's FHSZ-SRA data. We can see that a clear graduated symbology or color scale was applied to the map that I created. And this shows the the moderate, the high, and very high levels of severity within the county. We will see how this very high severity correlates with other areas and potentials in our results. The ranch is within this very high severity area shown on the CAL FIRE website and with the map that I created. This is another map showing more recent data. At the time when I made this map, I could not find this data here, but this shows basically an up to today the fire severity. This one is changing, and the office of the state fire marshal sent out this one earlier this year. Future, analyzing fire probability. To analyze the future of the ranch and its fire potential, we will look at FRAP fire probability. FRAP uses various methods for estimating the likelihood of wildfire occurrence across the state of California in the coming decades. My 8th source is the FRAP website, and this one is the fire probability map. Fire probability is specifically studied in terms of how carbon accounting affects fires. Carbon accounting is important to understand how annual periods of climate models impact all lands. Specifically, forests are important in showing how much carbon is being held in growth, fuels, and more. The map to the right, figure 6, shows how our ranch is placed within the fire probability zones. I have made a closer area scale of 0.0 to 0.7 based on the zones found within the nearby parcels and beyond. We can see that the color associated with the ranch is lighter than darker, which translates to a 0.4 scale upon the fire probability in this close area. Our results will show how this fire probability and the state government fire responsibility data will correlate. This is my fire probability for carbon accounting data within specifically the ranch parcel and the surrounding parcels, along with the general area of Camino. This shows a different scale than what's found on the FRAP website, as this 0 to 0.7 scale shows the minimum and maximum range of FRAP here. The mean FRAP fire probability scale for the ranch is 0.4. Here is a more graphical image of that same map. Results, comparing history, severity, and probability. History and severity. The correlation found between fire history and severity showed a result of severity being lessened by recent fires. This goes along with logic, as when major burned areas, they lessen the amounts of forest and brush. Then we see with other fires is less likely to occur at that point for some time. Take a look at the map to the right, figure 7, along with the recent major King and Caldor fire burn perimeters. The transparency of these two layers shows little green, orange, or red below them, which correlates to no severity for modern high or very high levels. By using QGIS features like graduation and categorization, along with the transparency, we are easily able to detect this occurrence of not seeing major severities in areas with recent fire history. This is good news for fire development that comes out of the east towards the ranch. For the past two fires of King and Caldor, this is what we saw with the fires starting in the extreme east, El Dorado County, within the El Dorado National Forest, and then those fires spread west. However, we see that the ranch is surrounded by high and very high severity under it on the map from the southwest. A fire coming out of the southwest areas, like from the towns of Newton, Pleasant Valley, or Somerset, is more likely to occur. Additionally, there was some lateral red along the sides of the ranch parcel that indicates possibility of fires from unburned areas of Sly Park Recreation Area or of Sly Park from the direct east or the direct west from the gold bug mine of Placerville area. King and Caldor fire in the shadowy white, showing looking underneath them. You can't, there's a little bit of red here and a little bit of red here, but overall, these burn scars from these fires hold 0 severity. FRAP, severity and probability. With the present and future correlation analysis, we find the current data through FRAP relating to fire severity and probability. The below or to the right map, figure 8, shows the two layers over each other. What we know about the fire history and severity comes close to what we see here as well. The rectangular layer is the fire probability from the state, the fire probability for carbon accounting map website, which was my source 8. This shows a broader and clearer layer of each parcel pixel, with the scale now being 0.45 to 1.28. This is different from the previous scale, as that we had a 0.0 to a 0.7 on the scale. Here we find a correlation between the amount of red or very high severity areas and the higher the fire probability. This is most likely because the areas and parcels hold highly condensed forests or brush areas. This is seen in the lower right quadrant of the probability layer, with the highly condensed purple and dark color and the deep red of the fire severity layer. Excuse me. As you can see here, the purple and deep purple, black, these darker colors show higher probability up here and below here, and underneath those layers are the very high severity levels as well. And lastly, for our results, history and probability. With what we found above, we understand that there stands a mild to high risk of fires within our property. However, most fires can easily spread and change course to target the ranch. The map below or to the right shows the correlation between the fire history and probability areas we found previously. As seen in previous results, I lost my page. As seen in previous results of the fire history, lessened fire history correlates with increased fire severity. Now seen in figure 9 to the right, we have correlated areas of fire history and probability. The green circled areas are like those previously seen in figure 4 to point out previously the surrounding areas without giant fires. These zonal areas of both the probability raster and the history perimeter are overlaid. With this data, the circled areas are to show areas that have very high fire probability based on carbon accounting. These areas are also showing to have a reduced fire history and create a very distinct visual of where the fires could happen in the future. The zones depicted are correlated with higher density of forest and brush, with a high chance of the future. This is explained under the area scale, the probability now at 0.32 to 1.85, with the purple areas being over 1.0 to 1.8. This is under the FRAP scale, originally at 1 to 2% at my Source 8 website. So these areas are within a mile east and west of Placerville, as well as a mile south of Somerset. Right here, we have Placerville in this general area on the right of this green circle. This shows a lot of fire probability where these fires did not reach Placerville. There's a lot of fire probability on that west side of Placerville, California. This northern part of Somerset, California, um, shows that these fires did not reach this area, and now we have a big probability area here. Discussion. With this data, I think that the most probable fire interval pathway to come to the ranch would be highly severe from the west to southwest. To show you again, this is the west of the ranch here. A fire is most likely to happen here or here, western of the ranch. Whether it's lateral along Placerville and Camino, or if it's from the south, more directly in Somerset. This is understood through what we see with the high and very high levels of fire severity and fire probability. Additionally, these areas correlated with low or no fire history. Like I explained up here again, underneath this purple is almost no red, which indicates zero fire history. I predict the most possible fire to be spread towards the ranch parcel would come from these areas, as I've shown, spreading east and northeast towards the ranch. So from the west going east, starting northeast, going southwest. A fire out of the Placerville area would need to spread approximately 5 to 7 miles east to reach the ranch, and a fire out of Somerset area would need to spread approximately 5 to 7.5 miles north and approximately 1 to 1.5 miles east to reach the ranch. This is shown here. I have a scale bar below the lower right hand corner of this map. Basically, this is going to show the distance that if a fire goes here, the distance between the ranch and where that fire is most likely to spark, and along with the one more closer to Somerset. While I understand that a fire could likely start much closer to the ranch or spark near the ranch, these areas seem the most likely to spark in the future. As we see here, this is the California Cal Fire data that shows fires are most likely to occur in these areas. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that a fire is going to start there. However, as we look closer towards the ranch, our fire probability goes down. We can look back up here, and generally our property is within a medium to high level of probability. Okay, that means that a fire could spark there. It is within the very high fire severity. But I believe, this is my claim, that a fire is most likely going to start here, west of Placerville or north of Somerset, and it will spread towards the ranch. All right. Quite frankly, I did not think this was going to be the case. I always thought that a fire would come out of the El Dorado National Forest from the east or from the north. To explain that further, we'll look at this map here. This is what I predicted the Caldor fire, okay? I believed before the Caldor fire happened, um, when I was first introduced with the ranch and I started learning more about fire history and data and all that stuff, I thought a fire was going to burn somewhere in the El Dorado forest. Now, the Caldor fire burnt west. Okay, so it didn't start there and burned east. It actually came towards us to the west. But that major part of El Dorado County was burned. However, let's take a look. Since those areas have already been burned, it will take a while to have another major fire spark there as well. I think there is more of a chance of a fire coming out of the two zonal areas that I depicted in Figure 9 of happening. This assumption was found in how the fire severity and probability shows the ranch parcel data. The fire history doesn't look good for the ranch in holding a fire on the property in over 100 years. However, it is still maintained, protected better, and less severe than areas that are more severe and probable within these forest areas, as we see here. A fire out of the two zones near Placerville, Somerset will need to have happen quickly and with the good fire conditions to spread all the way towards the ranch. I hold that assumption that CAL FIRE would do its best to stop it. However, I live under the mentality of being proactive than reactive. So if a fire sparks in these two areas, what's going to happen? I believe CAL FIRE will do its best job, as CAL FIRE has done, to stop these fires from spreading even into Placerville, even into Somerset, before they reach the ranch. Now, if they go beyond those limits, the ranch will be at risk. However, we see more maintained and well forests in the areas of Camino, Pollock Pines, and Placerville than we see in these raw forest areas, like in this purple here. So the original question at the top was, where is a fire probable to happen within the distance of the ranch in the future? I answered where a ranch is most likely to happen and come from, and the circumstances that explain why. With that, with what was learned, I would like to further my analysis on what this means for the ranch if fire comes, what we can do about it, and what efforts we can make to prevent it. My conclusion. Some key takeaways that I saw within this project are the following. The need for more specific data on the ranch's fire severity and probability is crucial. If we look up here, CAL FIRE and the state fire marshal office hold responsibility areas. This means that they will conduct more data in areas that they are more responsible to. The ranch probably isn't going to have the best data rather than a national forest would. Why? Because the ranch is privately owned. The forest is a national park, or a national forest, and needs to be protected more. However, I would like to do my own job to protect the ranch, with my own resources. Finding data wasn't easy, and plotting it to find the correlation was even harder. These maps took me a very long time to find the data, do georeferencing on the data, and to just contextualize and understand what these meant. And let's go a little bit down. I would love to find my own data and create it for a primary data source. I don't think I would have done anything differently with this project, and I'm proud of where this project has brought me. I'm glad to help my family's ranch wherever I can. To expand on this project in the future, I want to expand a part 2 of this report, and to look deeper into correlation of the future forest type to severity and probability, and what this means for the actual trees on the ranch, and what it means for their fire risks. Going over the ranch's orchard, the grassy land, the Christmas tree lot, the different types of apple and walnut trees. I would love to commit an on-site forest land type data where I can conduct it and get my own primary data, map it, and analyze it to contextualize, to create proactive measures in preventing fire to spread onto the ranch. I would love to plot the ranch's mixed conifer trees like those ponderosa pine, sugar pine, and incense cedar, and more. Depending on the specific burnt area uses and forest types, we may see a correlation between these areas for present and future concerns. Just going over these two maps here, I added this map. This is the current data on fires that are happening now. So El Dorado County not looking too bad. This one right here, if I can click on it. All right, we got an incident here, prescribed burn, 101 acres burned. All right. But I added this one just for people to have. This has helped me in the past understanding where fires are coming from and how fast they're moving. They helped me assess how quickly I need to evacuate, where I need to go. And I have done that for basically ever since I first had to evacuate somewhere. I used this type of map with Esri data. And this map here is a little closer on what I would like to do with a future project part 2. This is the land use for the ranch, this parcel here. And it shows things like native vegetation, the urban development and residential areas. Here's our walnut grove, and here is the Christmas trees um, and nursery farm trees down below. That would be a great place for me to do that is to look further into the land use and forest types and see what I can actually um, do to help risk in the future. I was glad I was able to do this presentation and this report. Thank you to NR218 and Professor Akash Ahmed. This is my final presentation report here. It's basically the same data and information. To go over briefly just my sources, here are my references and sources below. I tried my best to uh, get it all stated in Harvard format, and that will be my presentation. Thank you for watching and listening.